I hit snooze by mistake.
Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan, and we're really glad that you decided to join us today, whether you're watching us live or if you're watching us later on or listening to us later on. We're really glad that you decided to be in the audience. Chris Chrisman said, good evening, Rob and Joan. Welcome,
Chris.
Guy. Looking forward to a great show. Thank you, Chris. Joe Conjal. Hi, Rob and Joan. Hi, Joe. Paul Hollis says,
Hi,
good
Joan.
Evening, Rob and Joan. Good evening,
Hey,
Paul.
Paul.
George Jasmuke says, okay, put your hand over your heart and face Texas because your favorite Texan BS artist is here.
Well, there is truth in that statement.
Love you, George.
And hi, Nadine. We know you're there.
Yeah, and the Poochies too.
The great woman behind the great man.
Chris Chrisman says, hi, Rob and Joan, and welcome, Guy from France. I know, God bless him, staying up so late to be on our show.
Holy.
Marjorie Deering said, I'm glad to be here for another great episode. Thanks, Marjorie. We're so glad that you're here.
Yeah.
I think maybe we're as cold as you are today. Maybe. I got to wear...
We don't have the snow, though.
A sweater.
We have sand.
Fashion boots.
We have sand.
It was a great day for me.
I don't know whether that counts.
Sand?
Sand, yeah.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
Okay. Well, episode rewind this Saturday, like almost every Saturday.
Actually, like every
Saturday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Right here where you're watching right now, you can catch old episodes of our show. This coming Saturday, December 7th, is Dr. Bruce Farmer's episode. And the next live next week will be December 11th, and that's Terry Parlato. And Watch Your Back is her novel that releases on December 24th. And
day before Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. So she's going to tell us all about that. It says, amid a bleak Boston winter, a recently married couple find their lives and their relationship unraveling after a series of deadly accidents in this brilliantly twisty domestic thriller, perfect for fans of Stacey Willingham, Greer Hendricks, and Megan Miranda. Sounds good.
So Marjorie Deering says we're at 11 degrees right now. So, okay, I stand corrected.
We did make it into the 70s today. But it was cold this morning.
But it was
39.
39, so
yeah.
That was cold. That was freezing for me. I know it's not literally.
Yeah.
Chris Chrisman said, oh my God, 17 degrees overnight for Weeper. Okay.
Okay, you guys. You win.
You win.
Yep, you win. Sorry.
I thought we were cold.
Yeah. In the Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles world, pick up Justified Homicide by Kelly Marshall. That was the November entry.
Mm-hmm.
Up next on December 20th is Jinx Schwartz's book. I'm not sure what the title is going to be yet. Do you remember?
Mm-mm.
I'm not sure if she settled on a
title
title
do you
yet.
remember?
Joe might remember.
Joe might remember.
What Jinx's new book is called. I know it's something catchy, but I can't remember what it is.
Mm-mm.
At any rate, that'll look for that December 20th, the next one for Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles. We have an exciting show tonight.
Yes.
Wonderful guest that we've visited with before. He had a pre-show or a pre-recorded episode a few months ago, and he's back to talk about his new book that comes out on Monday.
But Joe Conjal said, you guys are breaking up a bit. Is it just me? I don't know. Are we breaking up with everybody else? It seems fine here. And Dave Murray's here. Hi, Dave. Hi, Rob and Joan. We're supposed to get a foot of snow, and they are breaking up. Uh-oh. Okay. Chris Chrisman said it's a shaky internet, Joe. Are we breaking up for everybody else? We are for Dave and for Joe. A little here. Paul Hollis said a little here, too.
Okay, well, hopefully that'll fix itself. I don't see any kind of warnings or anything on our screen, so we'll do the best we can here and roll along. And we're going to bring Guy in now. And hello, Guy.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you, Rob. Nice to see you, Jane.
Good to see you, too. Are we breaking up for you, or are you hearing us?
I'm hearing you clearly. It's funny how it might work all the way across the Atlantic for some reason.
You're all the way in France.
Chris Chrisman says it's because of the overseas connection.
Well, that could be.
That could be. And Dave said we can still hear you okay. Joy Shelton, New York. Hi, Rob and Joan. Yes, you were breaking up. That is so funny because
usually people that are breaking up are laughing at my jokes, but that's not the kind of breaking up you're talking about. Okay.
Guy, we're not breaking up for Guy, and he's all the way in France. So that's crazy.
Yeah. So if you missed a lot of the words, you can always put them back together again and watch the replay of it on
sorry we're breaking up. I don't think there's anything we can do. I think Chris Chrisman's right. It's because of the overseas connection.
I think so too.
Yep.
So, Guy, you've got some exciting news. You've got something coming up here on Monday. For those that didn't watch your previous episode, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. So, my name's Guy. I'm a retired London police officer. I did 30 years in London, retired in 2016. After retiring, we all got obviously hit by the COVID pandemic, and one of the ways I resolved the boredom and the lack of things to do was I sat down and started to write. I hadn't done anything like that before in my life, and the culmination of the writing was a manuscript that I passed across to my lovely wife, Paula, and she read it and said, this might have somewhere to go. And in 2022, I published my first novel, which was called Dysfunction. It was a pandemic adventure thriller, and I set it in Scotland. And we then, as a couple, decided to take the leap and move to France from our home in the southeast. There we are. That's the cover to my debut novel, Dysfunction. So in July of last year, I and Paula upped sticks and we moved completely and utterly to France. And we live in a small village in the Dordogne region of France, about an hour's drive from Bordeaux, a town, a city that you guys have heard of. And I had a manuscript up my sleeve, but it was obviously on the back burner because of the move. And I managed to get it sort of put together. And I published Indomitable, my second novel, in February of this year. It's a historical fiction based on the life of my German grandfather and his trials and tribulations through the first half of the 20th century, trying to find a home for himself, which he eventually did, obviously, in England. So since publishing that, I had the germ of an idea from when I'd been living in the UK last sort of spring. And basically, I wrote a poem for my wife's birthday last year, for Paula's birthday. And I sort of thought, that was quite good. And I was just sat quietly in a coffee shop, in a shopping mall in central London. And I had a notebook with me. I just started jotting down a few poems about aspects of my police career, my early police career. I didn't really know what to do with them. And by the time I'd sort of worked out what I was doing, I'd written about plenty of these poems. And I thought, well, maybe I could just put a book of poems out. And then I thought, what about if I sort of hang some of the stories and anecdotes that I've got, each of the poems, so each topic, each poetry topic, I could put that into a chat. Suddenly I had a book of 20 chapters of stories and anecdotes of my early, and we're talking about the late 1980s right through the 1990s. Stationed probably famous station there will perhaps remember called Animals, Battersea Power. That's the part of London. So I hear the story together. Number one fan and read it. This isn't bad at you pushing it because it was good because I'm already working on another fiction about it in a while. But I said, well, we could put sort of just my in people's. So I went ahead and I've gone ahead and put this book together. And as you quite rightly said, I've entitled it On the Beat, and it's published on Monday the 9th of December at midday. It'll be available on Amazon as a paperback and also as a Kindle version. And I'll probably put it out on Kindle. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, I think it'll be free to you to pick up a copy. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been memorable. It's been quite difficult actually remembering some of the stuff because it's quite a long time ago. But I've sought advice from people. I've sought some help with some information and getting the dates right. It's been eye-opening writing now a true account rather than a fiction, because I've had to be a bit more careful with places and names, because these are real people and these are real incidents. And it's both, some of it's quite amusing, some of it's quite harrowing, but it's all real. And it's life as I remember it at that time, as best as I can. And it gives, I hope, an insight into the work that a beat duty police officer in London at that time, what we would get up to, what our day, our work, our duty would involve, the variety and the complexity sometimes of our days, mixed also with some downtime and some fun and some wind-ups and some joke playing, which was all part of the life that I led at that time. And it's been really enjoyable. I've had a lot of support from the group of people that I worked with in those days. I'm still friends with a good number of them, sort of 35 years later. I think that speaks volumes for the camaraderie we had then, that we still keep in touch today. And I was able to get some sound bites from them, which I've managed to include at the back of the book. I called it witness statements, and it's basically these little paragraph from each of my friends and colleagues of that time and what they thought about working at Battersea. In fact, there may be a sequel, possibly. It'll be all their stories that I'll put together rather than my own. And we might call that The Beat Goes On or something. So we've got some ideas for moving forward. But that's basically me. I sit here now in France as an expat, happily writing stories. I always have something going on. The next one's, as I said to you, already in the planning stages. In fact, I'm probably a quarter of the way into writing it. So we'll certainly have that ready for next year at some stage. And I like to call myself multi-genre because I'll write anything. The next one's going to be a quite sinister horror thriller, just to keep things moving and to keep my interests open. I'm never going to be pigeonholed. I'm always going to be trying to do something new.
So Joe Conchel said he likes the simplicity of that cover, a very cool look.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you very much.
Connie Clary says, hello, everyone. Hey, everyone. Hi, Connie. Glad you made it. Chris Chrisman said, I wonder, the closed caption is working so good. If Guy spoke in French with the CC translated, I wonder the same. Chris
if my
Crispin
French was
wants
that,
to... Go ahead. Answer him.
if my French was that good, I would happily speak in French to you. But sadly, I'm learning.
Might
But
be more confusing.
well, it's not conversational French as yet. I could probably get by going to order a coffee or a beer, but beyond that, I'd probably be struggling, if I'm honest.
Chris Crispin said, "Is it hard or easy being an expat in France?"
It used to be when the United Kingdom left the EU and we had our Brexit vote. We're no longer members of the EU, so as a United Kingdom citizen, British citizen, it is actually quite complicated now to live in France. You have to come here with quite a lot of financial backing, and you have to show the French government that you're going to be able to live here without need for their welfare system initially. And then you can, once you've been here for 5 years, you can apply for residency. But yeah, it's not as easy as it used to be. And so yeah, you just have to. The French are pretty bureaucratic, as probably most countries of the world are now, and you have to jump through a few hoops and fill in an awful lot of forms. But it's doable. You just have to take everything in its stride, and you can do it. But yeah, it's not as easy as it used to be. That's probably the best way to say it.
So Marjorie Deering writes horror, and she said, "Uh-oh, horror, another writer who likes to dabble in that genre." Yes, we all like a little bit of competition, though. It makes it fun.
Trouble with me is I won't stick to horror. I'll move on to something else. There might be a romance in my arsenal of stories at some stage. I don't know. I just whatever pick I go for.
Have you ever read a romance book?
I have. In fact, there was a lady in a writing group that I joined, and she asked me to proofread her book. It was quite salacious. It was not what I expected from her, and I had to sort of point out. So I said, "You've made a middle-aged man blush." To be fair, I was quite surprised. So yeah, I think as an author, you probably have to look your friends very carefully in the eye if you wrote a sort of steamy romance. That might be quite difficult. So I'll be wary of that, I think.
There you go. There you go.
Yep, but they can be quite spicy, as we like to say.
Yeah.
Salacious, of course, is the correct word. But yeah, I was just wondering because it's different. Different than what you've written.
Definitely.
For real. I mean, let's to go through that again. Dysfunction. What would you do if a government lockdown was effectively imprisonment? Indomitable. Born to one country, his heart belonged to another. A quest for acceptance at a time of war and hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And then now on the beat.
Stories from policing.
But
streets
this
of
one
London in
is
the
different
1980s.
because it's autobiographical. It is not a fiction. This is a nonfiction book.
Yeah, it will stand alone. It will be, when it comes to somewhat my list of titles, it won't be a fictional novel. It'll stand on its own.
Chris Chrisman said we can write romance novels using a pen name.
Well, this Guy Robin is a pen name, but they'll still know it's my friends will still know it's me.
And Chris Chrisman says, "Great covers." Yes.
Thank you.
Well, especially since you're showing your face on video here. Even those people who are not your friends will know that it's you.
I knew I should have worn a balaclava. There we are.
Yeah, that's right. Chris Chrisman said, "Is nonfiction harder or easier? Was it harder or easier for you to write?"
I think because I came at it by accident and it was the germ of an idea. I wrote it, and then when I went back over it, proofreading it, I realised I'd need to change things. So there was more responsibility to be accurate, but also to protect real situations, real people, real locations, because it is a small world, and you don't want to offend or upset people unnecessarily. So a bit more of a responsibility to put down a collection of stories that protect the innocent, protect those that aren't involved. A different set of rules, if you like, I suppose, when you're writing that sort of thing. And we went through it, Paula and I, and sort of said, let's just take that name out and let's just take that particular. I mean, there's plenty of street names in there that are real street names. There's plenty of tower blocks that are the real tower blocks, but I've changed some because I just felt it was necessary. So yeah, I think responsibility would be the word I'd say. A different responsibility.
Well, let me tell you something real quick, then we have to go to our first commercial. But one of the books that we wrote, we had the mob in it, all right? And we used to live in Chicago, and
I was in the mob.
No, he wasn't. But one of my best friend was married to someone in the mob, and I didn't know that. And I used to go to their restaurant all the time. When it was closed, their Italian restaurant, when it was closed down, it would just be La Familia, which is Italian for the family. So it was just the family. And we used the name of that restaurant, and then I found out, and we used the name of that restaurant and what it looked like on the inside in our book, because I thought nobody will know. Who's going to read this book? Nobody will know. The mob will never know that we actually used that restaurant in the book. Yep, somebody said, oh, I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant, but she said, I go there to eat all the time. You described it perfectly. And I was like, oops.
We need to take our break.
No, but that goes to your changing names. Might have been smart if I'd used a different name.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We need to take our break now.
We'll be right back.
We'll be back in a few minutes.
And there's a lot of comments. We'll get to you.
Of comments. We'll catch those, and we've got you going to be reading to us too. So don't go away, folks.
This novel, set against the backdrop of the English Civil War, explores love and survival amidst the chaos of war. It combines historical events with personal narratives, highlighting the impact of conflict on individuals and families. England, 1642. When bloody civil war breaks out between the king and parliament, families and communities are driven by different allegiances. Red Winter Journey is a sweeping tale of adventure and loss, sacrifice and love, with a unique and unforgettable story of a mother's love for her son at its heart. A historic journey of twists, turns, and a dash of spirited passion.
I finished reading the book a couple of days ago. It was a great read. The plot was indeed compelling, and I loved the conclusion. What I particularly enjoy in Paul's novels is his vivid recounting of historical details as to the social and cultural sides at the time. His characters are very likable and relatable.
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small, coal-mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with Two Faces of the Jaguar, The Lost City, and The Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
And we're back. Before you read, let's get to these comments here. Let's see. Okay. Everyone says the interference has cleared up.
Maybe it was solar flares.
I don't know.
Or moon flares.
George Dismuke says, which sells better for you, fiction or nonfiction? Well, he doesn't know yet, George, because the book doesn't come out until Monday.
His nonfiction comes out Monday, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that one will sell better when it comes out Monday.
You can write to George and
that,
let him know
I
how
mean,
it goes.
you know, it's really a very interesting subject. So, I mean, you know, not every law enforcement officer writes about their life on the beat and other things. Chris Christmas said it's very windy in the U.S. Yeah, that might have had something to do with it. Joe Conjal said, hi, Guy, just curious, is there a story behind how and why you chose your pen name? Oh, good question.
It is a good question.
That is a good question.
My second novel was called Indomitable, and it's based on the life of my German grandfather, which gives a clue as to what my real name might be. So I've got a middle name, and my middle name is Robin. So it's simply my two Christian names, Guy and Robin. And I just chose that as a more simple way. Plus, it's less letters on the book, so I don't need so much space on the cover to get it on.
There you go. There you go.
Chris Christman said, for certain subjects in my books, I feel a certain responsibility to not reveal some details. Yeah, I'm sure that believe me, you know, Irish Catholic from Boston, we had some Leos in the family, and, you know,
Wouldn't want them to know about your mob connections.
Yeah, like they didn't know. like they didn't know. Because I kept that secret from them. But I know there's a lot of stuff that they would never put in a book or repeat or make known to the public. Too difficult to read, I think. For sure.
Right. Well, speaking of reading,
would you like to
read?
I would indeed. I need to just quickly set this up then. So during my early time in the police, there was always a strike by someone. And this particular story is revolving around the London ambulance dispute of the late 1980s, when the ambulance drivers and paramedics all went on strike. And in England, we had emergency cover provided by the army, with the police, myself, acting as navigators to assist them to get to the various places where they were needed. So this story is an evening on duty when I was assisting the army paramedics in lieu of the striking normal paramedics that were working. So one incident that sticks in my mind was while we were covering the night shift. A call came in at about 11 o'clock at night to a male having a suspected heart attack in a block of flats in Battersea High Street. The block was a tower of 12 stories. We drove there hoping he'd be on a ground floor flat. Not a chance. He was on the 8th floor and had collapsed while he was on the toilet, so was lying half on the bathroom floor with his pyjamas sort of half on and half not. Our patient was also estimated to be in excess of 300 pounds in weight. When we arrived at the foot of the tower block, we pressed the lift. It was smaller than a phone box inside, and only one of us, plus the collapsible chair that we were carrying, could fit in it. So the army driver and myself climbed up the 8 flights of stairs while the paramedic ascended in the lift. By the time we got to the 8th floor, we were blown a bit, and our medic colleague had got the patient into the recovery position, found a pulse, and established that he was indeed breathing. He needs to go to hospital, the medic pointed out. Okay, shall we put him on the chair? My driver replied. He was ahead of me, and I could see him working out the logistics and physics of trying to get a 300-pound chap onto the chair then into the dumb waiter pretending to be a lift. We managed to get the man, give him some dignity, and got his pajamas back on. Unfortunately, that's pretty much where the dignity ended. The three of us, using every ounce of strength we possessed, managed to get him on the chair, but he wasn't really on it. Perhaps one cheek of his capacious backside was on it, but when I took a step back, I looked like he was talking. The three of us carried, manhandled, and dragged him out of the flat and onto the 8th floor landing and pressed for the lift. When the doors opened, it was immediately obvious that in his recumbent position on the chair, he wouldn't fit. Now what? We'd abandoned the possibility of standing him up in the lift and letting him go down on his own. I mean, the man was unconscious. It just didn't feel right. The only solution was to use the stairs, all 8 flights of them. If we left him sitting on the chair, it would mean that we had to lift him down every single step. I didn't really think that would be possible. It was then that I had a thought, inspired by the 1984 film Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan. There's a scene in the film where the elderly Lord Greystoke, played by the brilliant and irascible actor Ralph Richardson, climbs to the top of the stairs of his grand stately home with a large silver tray. He then sits on the tray and shuggles it to the edge of the top step. Then Cresta Run style, down he goes. Bumpety, 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 bump. What are you suggesting? Slide him down 8 flights of stairs? The medic was clearly a bit doubtful about my suggestion. Well, look, if we take him off the chair, fold it flat, strap him to it, then it becomes a sort of luge, and we can gently lower him down each flight to the turn and then down to the lower floor. I was kind of making it up as I went along, but the army type seemed to think that was okay. So working as quickly as we could, we got the chap off the chair, folded it flat, turned it upside down so the wheels were off the ground and wouldn't hinder the sliding, and we pushed him to the edge. The idea was that as we tilted the thing, gravity would take over, but the three of us would be able to hold on to it to slow the speed. Utter rubbish. The moment we got him past the point of no return, we just couldn't hold on, and he slid down the stairs like a fat missile, crashing into the wall at the midway point. Quick as a flash, we lined him up for the next flight and just repeated the process and just let him go. Eventually, we got him in the ambulance, still breathing, still with a pulse. Revving the engine of the Land Rover ambulance, the driver got almost 40 miles per hour out of it at some parts of the journey. We made our way to the hospital. On arrival at the accident and emergency, nurses appeared with a proper bed to transport our patient, and this mountain of a man disappeared inside. We followed slowly behind, looking for a vending machine and a quick cup of coffee, before we had to contact Scotland Yard to tell them we were free for another call. The doctor came out of the emergency room and spotted us. It's also worth noting at this time that defibrillators were not commonplace then. That chap you brought in, his heart's going well. It's like he was given an almighty jolt by something. Did you drop him perhaps? It was a little bit bumpy getting him down to the ground floor. The medic replied, as the army driver and myself were busy choking on our coffee. The man from the tower block in Battersea High Street survived his heart attack and his brush with the police and army ambulance crew that night.
Bravo.
I'm sorry.
That was great.
Apologies for the levity.
Anyone with any kind of medical background knows how true and accurate that is, and how many things like that actually
That's something
happen.
you can't unsee.
I'm sorry.
Right? You couldn't unsee that if you tried.
Oh my God, that's the funniest thing. And that really happened.
Indeed it did. And unfortunately, I've remembered it to that extent.
And I mean, that does happen to so many people on the toilet. I mean, that's a very real thing. You vag out. And I'm sorry. It just brought back so many memories to when I was in that profession.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So back to some comments.
Boy, if that doesn't get someone to buy the book, I don't know what would. What other kind of stories we got in there?
Said, he seems to have had a little bit of a jolt.
A little bit of a jolt. Yes, a little bit.
Try 8 floors on a luge.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. All right. Here's Chris Chrisman. There's a lot of comments. Chrisman says, Guy, are you a plotter or a pantser?
That's a good question. I'm a bit of both, really. The first couple of books, certainly the first book, Dysfunction, was very much by the seat of my pants. A bit more planning went into Indomitable. This one was a germ just of an idea of poems, but the one I'm writing for next year, I've got a storyboard. I've got it all up on the wall behind my computer. I've chapterized it. I've got an idea. I've done the research and visited the locations since I've been living here in France, because that's where it's going to be set. So, yeah, I think I've adapted my writing style and the way I research and the way I prepare from the first one. Maybe I wouldn't say make it any more professional. I'm just changing how I go about this particular one. It may be that the next one I write is again back to being seat of my pants. We shall see.
Now, this one you just read from your new book, I want to make sure, and you kind of told us before, it's not all funny.
No.
It's not all funny stories.
No.
It's also some very serious stories.
I'm glad you chose a funny one.
Yeah,
thank you.
There is definitely some harrowing stuff in there. I seem to join the police in London at a time when we were going through an awful lot of major incidents that seemed to come one after the other. And it may not be news or may not have reached across the pond to you guys, but we went through a tragedy at the King's Cross tube station where a fire killed an awful lot of people. We had a pleasure boat on the Thames, River Thames, that was hit by a dredger, a big boat, and a lot of people, partygoers, were killed on that boat. And the Marchioness was the name of that boat. We were still being targeted by the IRA, who were bombing London at that time when I first joined. So we had to deal with the outflow of results of bomb explosions on a fairly regular basis. On my particular patch, there was an incident where two trains collided during the rush hour at Clapham railway station, the Clapham rail crash in 1988. 37 people lost their lives, and we were boots on the ground for all of those incidents. So there's an awful lot of stuff in there that and I say in the book, in life, when you see trauma, when you see things of that nature, there are things that you can't unsee. They're with you for life. And I've, albeit that extract had a lot of levity, my other stuff, the other stories, in amongst all the light-hearted stuff, there is some harrowing stuff. And in the 80s, there was very little in the way of mental health support. The mental health support that you had in the police at that time was go for a beer after work with your colleagues. And that was how we unwound. And we developed quite a dark humour in a way to relieve that pressure.
Yeah.
And I think you do become quite insular and work as a team, and you're wary of outsiders because you put so much trust in that small group of people you work with. And as such, you find outside elements difficult to deal with. And I think it affects both yourself and your family. When I was first in the police, I was a single man, 21 years of age, 3 years from leaving school. And it doesn't really prepare you for some of the things that you were faced with. And I was supported by people with, at the time, they appeared to be police officers that had been doing the job forever, but they were probably, in hindsight, only 5 or 6 years older than me. But they were the experts. They were the fonts of all knowledge that you would go to ask advice or be taught by, and explained to you how the job should be done, which wasn't necessarily how we were trained to do the job at our training school, but it was practically how you did the job, because sometimes practical applications are not the approved method of dealing with things.
Right. But it's the way to get things done.
You've got to get the job done, and
Yep.
Sometimes you just have to take a different tack. So it's a great mixture of the things that I dealt with, and I think that's what I take away, is that it's the sheer variety of what we dealt with on a day-to-day basis.
And really, first responders do have a gallows humor, which is why I reacted the way that I did, because I remember some of the things that, we said and did, you have to, because you see so much life and death and
pain and
tragedy. You need to be able to blow off steam and laugh a lot.
Yeah, otherwise you can't go on.
We have a lot of comments here. Mm-hmm. So Joe Conjure said, I love writing mob guys into my PI series. I haven't been whacked yet. Yeah, so I don't have to worry about, I almost said the name and I won't. Paul Hollis said, brilliant read. Can't wait to get a copy. Yeah, that was a brilliant read. Oh my God, I laughed so much.
We were laughing like crazy.
I know, I was dying. Joe Conjure said, awesome reading. Joy Shelton York said, love it, and shows a laughing face with tears coming down her face, because I'm sure Joy was at home laughing like I was laughing. And then Chris Chrisman responded to Joe Conjure saying, I love writing mob guys into my PI series. I haven't been whacked yet. And he says, yet, LOL. Hey, wait a minute. And then Chris Chrisman said, you paint quite a picture, guy. Oh, it was brilliant. That was great writing.
Oh,
because
put us right there.
Yes, because you can tell that story when you're talking, and it's easy to make it funny when you're talking, and put people in the moment. But writing, it's different.
That's difficult.
That was really well done. Yeah. Yes, you did paint that was brilliant.
Do you guys understand what the obviously we use different weights and measures here. So on my book, the chap was about
pounds.
He was about 22 stone. So we would call it stone. So in my head, I converted that to pounds.
You did. You did good. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Because if he was only weighed 22 pounds, that wouldn't work out too well.
Exactly.
Or 22 stone.
Yeah.
No.
We'd be going 22 stone. How much is that in pounds?
Is he not reading? Oh, we just figured that out.
That was really, really funny, especially the movie reference.
Yeah, that was
funny. The funny things that come back to you. You should go and watch that movie now.
I watched that movie. It was really a good reference. I could see what was coming. It was really hilarious.
We need to take our second and last break.
Oh
as a
my
matter
God.
of fact. And when we come back, we're going to tell everyone how to reach you. And in case they want to come after you for some reason, to get in touch with you, and maybe we could talk into reading another little snippet. I don't know, maybe. You never know. But we also want to talk about what you got coming up again a little bit more. So everybody sit tight and don't go away. We'll be right back.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than three-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
Have you wanted to publish your story? Have you thought about self-publishing? Today is your day. 5-star Amazon review. Self-publish your ebook on Amazon for free in 2024. This ebook is available on Amazon by Becca L. Jones.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back.
We are, indeed.
Yes, let me bring up where you can reach Guy. If you want to follow him on LinkedIn, you can find him under the name of Guy Robin.
Just search him.
Yep.
That's funny. Search a cop.
And then and then on Facebook, look under Guy Robin Author. And on X, it's at Guy Robin _author. Oh, and I should be spelling all this for those that are listening and not watching. It's GUYROBIN _author. And on TikTok, he's also on TikTok, very brave.
Very brave.
Guy Robin _author. Well, that's good though, because I think that's a place where you can reach the young people. You know, they're all on TikTok. You're not on Instagram?
I'm on. I think I'm on. Yes, I'm on Instagram as well as at Guy Robin _author.
Okay.
So all the sort of meta-based, Facebook-based stuff. But TikTok was down to my nephew, who came to stay in the summer, and he said, "Oh, Uncle Guy, why don't you get onto TikTok?" I said, "Well, how's that work then?" And he kind of showed me, and I'm not really that confident on there, but it's a place to dabble and have a play and put some videos up and
reach a few more people, different people.
More people and talk about what I do and I found a little bit of traction, a little bit of support. Well, that's been very welcome. So I'll keep going with it and
do that reading on TikTok.
Yeah.
I've got to get the confidence. Yeah, I've got to get the confidence to read like that. The attention span of the young on TikTok is I've got to make a reading no more than about 30 seconds. They don't have longer than that.
It'd be hard to dilute that to 30 seconds and get the full impact.
No. The first 30 seconds would be something they'd want to tune in to get some more. So, might be enough to hook them in,
Yeah. Worth a try. Well, definitely.
I think the picture of the guy going.
Oh my goodness!
Because also you're thinking in terms of physics.
Yeah.
As to how fast somebody that weight can go, given the right angle.
Well, it was the madness thinking we could hold on to him, the three of us, once we go.
Not to mention, you guys had already had to hike up 8 flights.
Yeah.
You were pretty well exhausted by the time you got up there.
That was pretty much at the start of that shift as well. I think that was the first call we took that night.
Oh boy!
So it was.
I think we need to. Our son-in-law is a nurse, and he's now in administration. Because all of our children and their spouses are old, and but before he made the decision to be a nurse, he was an EMT. So he, in particular,
will get
a real, because, he has stories about different ambulance rides. And he would really, really love, we've got to get him that little snippet and let him.
Yeah, we'll do that.
let him hear that, because believe you me, he will really relate to that and enjoy it very much. Not that he's ever had to lift up a 300-pound patient. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, he has. So yeah, he'll really get. And just think of all of those EMTs and nurses and doctors that are listening to that. They're going to really relate to that big time and understand exactly.
Big time.
Yeah, big time. Very big time. Oh, we've got a comment. Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah, Paula said, I wouldn't have wanted to be on the downhill side of that stretcher.
Right?
Yeah, if only it had been a stretcher. But anyway, Paul, actually, weren't you running around after some of those people that were blowing up London at the same time? Was that in the 80s, or were you there? You were there during the time of the Troubles, right? Because Paul, field agent, he's written about it in his Hollow Man series. So
yeah,
and I know he was in London for a while.
It just all seemed to be happening at that time. It culminated in you had the bombs going off. We had these major incidents that just couldn't. I remember turning to a more experienced senior sort of serving officer to me, and I said, "Is this normal?" And he went, "No, we seem to be being hit by these major incidents and things happening sort of one after the other." I think we had the Clapham rail crash, which killed these people, and then 2 weeks later, an RA bomb factory was discovered on our patch as well. So it just felt like we were bouncing from one really serious major incident to another.
Paul was there in the 70s.
Okay. And it was probably worse in the 70s. I think the indiscriminate bombing in London was much more serious. And we were just at the very end of it. We had things like there was a bomb in the city of London at Bishopsgate, and there was a bomb at South Quay, which is one of the old docks areas on the Isle of Dogs in London. And these were probably the last RA bombs that I recall going off. But we also had lots of major, and there are chapters about it in the book, the Wapping print dispute, which was between Rupert Murdoch's newspapers and the print worker unions, because he'd relocated and automated his factory and moved away from Fleet Street. And it caused quite a lot of trouble for quite a short period of time, but it got quite violent for a while. So obviously we as police got bussed down there to deal with that. And every year we'd have the Notting Hill Carnival, which was a fairly major event in London, which could cause, and usually did cause, quite a lot of disorder and problems. So there was always that to deal with. And there's just chapters about those different bits and pieces. When you're working in a part of London like I was, you'd also get bussed over to different parts of London where you were needed to cope with something else. It may be like a major sporting event up at Wembley Stadium or down at Twickenham where they play rugby, and it might be to police a rock concert or something like that. So most weekends you'd have your weekend ruined because you might think you were going to be like working for an early shift on a Saturday, and instead you get told, no, you're working all day now until it ends.
At this point, are you glad to be away from it?
Yes, in a word. I think society has changed out of all recognitions from what I policed. I really do take my hats off to people that police in our modern society. I'm not sure it's a job I could do anymore. I don't recall having mobile phone cameras thrust in my face and cameras being everywhere and people wanting to interfere and get in the middle of you trying to do your job. I think when we told people more often than not to do something, most of the people that we told to do something would do it. There was far less discord and resistance to being quite reasonably asked to move away from a particular situation. I think In some ways, it's good that society's more questioning. In other ways, it's caused problems certainly for law enforcement. Certainly in England, don't forget we're talking about a police force that didn't carry any firearms. I went out on the streets of London in the late 80s carrying a lightweight wooden truncheon, a whistle, a radio, and a notebook. That was pretty much it. Wearing a very smart tunic with silver buttons, matching pair of trousers, pair of boots, and the helmet that's on the cover of the book, which you all know and love as a beat duty British Bobby's helmet. And that was the uniform that I walked out on the streets. And you patrolled on your own. You didn't patrol in pairs. And you didn't get in a car and drive around the patrol. You walked. You walked the beat. That's why it's called On the Beat. And you were given an area. You were given your beat was your particular patch that day, and it might vary depending on the benevolence of the sergeant in charge. You got told where you were going to patrol that day.
Do British Leos have to wear cameras? Because most, American Leos have to wear cameras now, body cams.
Yeah, they do now.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are a lot more defensive things. So we didn't have stab-proof or bulletproof vests. We didn't wear body armor at all.
Wow.
So they have that now. We didn't carry tasers. They've got tasers now as an alternative. They've got pepper spray now, which we never had. The truncheon has long been consigned to the history books, and it's now an extending baton, friction lock baton that they carry, which was just coming in when I finished. So there's a lot more. The radios are better as well. The radios have many more channels, and they actually work. Whereas my radio, depending on where you were on the ground, there'd be black spots where it wouldn't work. The batteries were notoriously short-lived, so you'd be. And then the first time you chased a suspect, the first thing that would fall off your belt would be the radio. Closely followed by your helmet falling off your head, and then you didn't know where you were. You were chasing. Where are you? I don't know.
I'm running.
Usually you say, hold it right there. And what's their first reaction is they run, right?
They run.
Well, and of course, the old adage in England without firearms is stop, or i'll say stop again. That's about it.
Robert, I'll hit you with my truncheon.
Well, there wouldn't be a point in hitting you, break your own truncheon rather than.
I mean, if you put it like that, I better stop.
Wait, let me take a note about this.
Do you know that the female officers, the WPCs, the women police officers at that time, they wore skirts. They were given a stocking allowance. They had to carry a handbag with all their personal effects in, and their truncheon was shorter than a male truncheon, so it would fit in the handbag. Beggars belief.
If I were a female officer, at least I would have carried 2 sets of brass knuckles in my purse.
You do that now. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I don't mess around. Chris Chrisman said, I have a friend who was at a bank when it was bombed, and the man behind her was killed, and she still has PTSD from it. Yeah. I mean, whoa, And then Chris said, Guy, well done for being a police officer during those times. Kudos. Yeah, stop, or I'll say stop again. That's funny.
That is.
That's okay for you to say that, but we would never say that.
Right.
I suppose not. I think, times change, and I welcome the changes, and I welcome the modernisation of the police service, but I also look at my colleagues who now serve, and I look at what they wear, and it's become so paramilitary, and it's become so practical. Part of me wonders that we've maybe lost something by losing that very smart uniform that I was very proud to wear, with a shirt and a tie. Don't forget, we wore a clip-on tie under the tunic. And I thought, part of me always feels that if you're going to be a police officer, part of it is looking the part. You've got to look the part, and you've got to command respect from your appearance to a degree. And I'm quite old-fashioned, so I think it's important. I used to think it was important that police officers their hair was well cut and short. They didn't have any visible tattoos on their arms and things like that. They had to show to a member of the public that they were a person of reasonable firmness that could be relied upon in a crisis. And I think you've got to look like that. You've got to also, I would take a pride in your appearance. Pressed trousers, clean pressed shirt, polished shoes. That shows that, to me, that you're someone that cares. And if you can care, then hopefully the public appreciate that you're caring for them. And maybe we've lost a little bit of that with the changes, but you're not going to get it back. The genie's out of the bottle and society's moved on. I was very proud and very lucky to police the streets of London for my 30 years. And don't forget, this book's just about those first 9 years.
Yeah.
I only know what I write about when I write about what I did next. Maybe
Okay.
I should.
Joe Conjal said, sounds like the same people responsible for dressing the women's professional baseball league back in the early days, yet they had to wear skirts. It was ridiculous to play baseball in a skirt. Dave Murray said, I had to step away for a while, but I can't wait to hear the replay based on what I did hear. Great show. And Chris Christman says, here, even our small town police are dressed like a paramilitary look. They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Wow.
Yeah. And Tom Nally in his empty chair is here
Tom.
giving applause. Hey, Tom. Glad to see you.
Well, I kind of put you on the spot earlier about maybe reading another snippet. It's getting late now, so I understand, and everybody will understand.
It's really late for you.
Yeah.
What time is it there?
2:30.
2 in the morning. Yeah, 2 in the morning.
Oh.
So I'll have a line tomorrow. I'm officer, or a retired police officer. I'll have a line tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Okay. You don't have to walk the beat.
Not wishing necessarily to change the mood totally, but this is a story from a Christmas day that I found myself working. Quite a cold Christmas day, and I'd been asked to go and tell a couple that a close relative had been killed in a car crash.
Okay.
I'll read you the snippet. I walked slowly down Battersea Park Road and into Prince of Wales Drive. It was eerily quiet, no traffic, just me pacing along, now accustomed to walking with my gloved hands clasped behind my back as I walked. The address I was heading for was behind St Mary's Church in a side road. The wind was whipping down Prince of Wales Drive, making me wish I'd taken a scarf. All the time I was walking, I was trying to think of the right words. Everyone in the control room weighed in with their opinion. Be bold, be direct, be obvious. Get the message across. And then temper that what you say next by how the bereaved couple react. The houses in Queenstown Road are formerly large Victorian houses of 3 and 4 stories. Many of these have now been converted into flats. The area behind the church contains smaller terraced houses. Before I got to the address, I contacted my control room and told them I was going to take my radio battery out while I was letting the parents know that their son had been killed. I knocked on the black door, and it must have been about 7:30 in the evening. A middle-aged lady, probably mid-50s, with grey and brown hair and a warm-looking Christmas sweater, came to the door and opened it slowly. I could see a man of similar age, slightly taller, standing beside her. Good evening. May I come in, please? As the lady opened the door fully to allow me to enter, I could see she was already weeping. A tear fell down her cheek onto her warm sweater. I walked into the small house. I could see the remains of a Christmas lunch piled up in the kitchen as they led me to their cosy lounge. I sat down opposite them as they clasped each other's hands on their sofa. Is it David? The man had second-guessed me and asked about his son. Taking the advice I'd so recently been given, I just told him, I am so sorry to have to tell you that your son David was killed in a road traffic accident earlier this afternoon. I stopped there, not wanting to overload them with this information. That could come after the initial impact of what I'd said sank in. But they were incredible. They were completely devastated for me to have been the bearer of such awful news, and I was given a cup of tea and asked how my Christmas day had been. I realised that they were in shock, and I'm not sure how they've taken in such horrific news. I spotted a notepad on the table and jotted down as much information as I had about the incident and who was the point of contact, the police that were dealing with that particular incident. I stayed with that poor couple for about an hour. I was shown pictures of their son David on the day of his graduation from university. They told me about how he'd been with his girlfriend the night before in Tunbridge Wells and was coming to see them that evening. It was heartbreaking and gut-wrenching. So listen. That's all I did. Listen. There we are.
Yep, and there you go to the other end of what it's really like to be a first responder, whether you're in the medical profession or if you're a Leo or if you're a firefighter. That happens, and it happens on Christmas and Valentine's Day, and there are some that you just never forget.
That was my first particular.
That'll stay with you forever, right?
I can see it's still affecting you now. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was really good.
That was really good and really hard. And I know hard for you to read because it's hard. It's always hard. Paul Hollis says, thanks, Guy. Your read brings back the old days. Yeah, I know. A lot of hard things happen, And that is why there's gallows humor, because there's a lot more of that than 300-pound men being on a luge down the steps,
But then the camaraderie came into it when I eventually came out of that house on that Christmas day, and it must have been about 8:30, 8:45 in the evening. The one of the main patrol cars had driven down there and had parked up, waiting for me, and they gave me a lift back to the station. They were there to support me.
Yeah, because it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. Like I told you in the pre-show, telling the parents of a 3-year-old child that she had died on the operating table, there was nothing that we could do. And that was my first, and that was really, really hard. Still hard to think about it. Joyce Shelton, New York said, very poignant read. Yes, very.
Thank you.
Both you and the parents acquitted yourselves admirably, Guy, Dave Murray said, and that's the truth, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Chris Crispin said, you have to laugh. Yes, while crying, he says. Yeah, it is. That is the way it goes. And
I like to think that's what the book is all about. It's the complete opposite. 2 stories, 2 extracts I've read, completely different, different tone. But that was what the work was, and you went from one thing like that to the other.
That's the whole cloth. Yeah, that's the whole cloth. That's what it is. Everything in between.
Absolutely. Yeah.
On a lighter note, is the actual picture of the hat, is that your hat on the cover?
Unfortunately not.
No, okay. I'm just wondering.
That's long been consigned to the bin, I should think. I don't know where it is. You had to handle your uniform back in.
Maybe it's in a museum.
It's probably in a museum with your name underneath it.
You can still get truncheons in museums. There is, if anybody comes to London, there is a very good museum based at what was Bow Street Police Station in central London. It used to be called it might still be called the Crime Museum, and it might now be open to the public. And it's a fascinating look at sort of real exhibits and case studies of some really famous crimes that have taken place in London in the last 100 years. So if anyone's ever in the centre of London, check out the Crime Museum at Bow Street. It's well worth a look, definitely.
Chris Chrisman said, getting a reader to feel what you felt is wonderful, Guy. And that's the truth. That's it. There's no greater compliment than to have somebody laugh with you or cry with you.
Yeah.
That's what we all want to do, right? That's what we want. That's the effect. And I did both tonight, laughing.
We need to let you go to bed.
Yep.
Well, thank you. First of all,
You're
thank you
staying
for
up
having me.
too late, young man. No, thank you so much for staying up and joining us tonight. It's been really great. Really opened the door, for a peek behind what it was like back in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah.
And don't leave after we sign off. There's one more thing I wanted to mention to you. Paul Hollis said,
Sure.
Great show. Thanks, Rob, Joan, and Guy. Thank you, Paul. Marjorie. Okay. Joe Condrell said, great show tonight. Thank you, Guy. And of course, Rob and Joan. Marjorie During said, it's been so interesting and great fun listening to Guy. Thank you for another terrific episode. Thank you all for being here. We have the best audience in the world. Chris Chrisman said, great show. Thank you, Guy. Looking forward to your book. Yeah.
You guys are all great.
Great book. I know our audience is the best.
The best. And Joy, thank you for
Joy
joining us
Shelton
as
York
well.
said, amazing show tonight.
We're going to move you over to the side now. So hold on for just a second. There we go. Hope that didn't hurt. Let's see. What do we got here? We have this Saturday, reminder, episode rewind, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time here in the U.S. December 7th, Dr. Bruce Farmer's episode. I think it's episode 160. And then next week live, we have Terry Parletto. Watch your back. And we're going to talk about that. And other than that, I don't know. Do you have anything else you would like to talk about?
Nope, except tonight you laughed and you cried and it was all good.
There you go. All right. So I guess until next time.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
Good night.
See ya.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen G's welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie, and you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DB